Throughout the long and often turbulent history of feudal Japan, tales of loyalty, valor, and mystery have been interwoven with the fabric of everyday life. According to local folklore and whispered rumors passed down through generations, the Hitobashira were human sacrifices buried alive within the foundations of buildings, bridges, and castles. This chilling practice was believed to protect the structures from spiritual harm, natural disasters, and misfortune, binding the living world to the realm of the supernatural in a desperate attempt to secure safety and longevity. Imagine the sprawling, wood-framed castles and delicate bridges carefully constructed during the feudal era, standing against the often harsh and unpredictable forces of nature. Earthquakes, floods, and fires were constant threats. In a time before modern engineering and scientific understanding of natural phenomena, ancient Japanese societies turned to spiritual means for protection. The weight of these dangers led to the birth of legends that intertwined human sacrifice with architecture itself, embedding what some would call a guardian spirit into the very foundations of their most important structures. The concept of offering a human life to appease deities or spirits is neither unique nor unheard of in the annals of world history. Yet, in Japan, the Hitobashira narrative carries a distinct cultural resonance. Feudal Japan was a society governed by strict codes of honor, duty, and loyalty. The samurai class upheld these values with unwavering devotion, and the toll of maintaining order often included harrowing traditions, some of which bled into the mysterious. Stories of Hitobashira often describe villagers or prisoners who were chosen, or sometimes forced, to become a living sacrifice. These unfortunate souls were reportedly buried alive within the foundations while the building was being constructed. Their restless spirits supposedly acted as eternal anchors, ensuring that the structures would stand firm against supernatural threats and violent natural forces. Whether facts, folklore, or exaggerated rumor, these tales reflect a deeply spiritual worldview, where the boundaries between life, death, and the physical world were fluid and intimately connected. Historical records on the practice are scarce and ambiguous. Some chronicles from the era offer veiled references that hint at the possibility of such sacrifices, while many scholars emphasize the difficulty in distinguishing literal truth from metaphorical storytelling or moral lessons embedded within folklore. For instance, some believe that the stories served as cautionary tales to inspire respect for the builder's craft or to emphasize the gravity of community effort in construction. One such tale is linked to the famous Muruoka Castle, where legend claims that a young woman was buried alive to ensure the castle's stability. Another story speaks of a bridge over the Tadami River, where, according to oral tradition, a man and woman sacrificed themselves during the bridge's construction to protect travelers. These stories, imbued with a haunting melancholy, have persisted for centuries, fueling curiosity, fear, and respect toward these ancient rituals. In Section 2, we will explore some of the most famous legends surrounding Hitobashira, delving into the details of these stories and examining how they continue to influence modern culture and architecture in Japan. Across Japan, numerous historical accounts and local legends echo the unsettling narratives of Hitobashira. One of the most famous examples is linked to Maruoka Castle in Fukui Prefecture. According to the story, a young woman named Oshizu volunteered, some say was chosen, to be buried alive within the castle's foundation to guarantee its stability. It is said that despite the castle standing for centuries, her restless spirit haunted the area, her cries echoing through the halls during storms. This tale, preserved in oral traditions and regional folklore, taps into a cultural thread weaving human sacrifice with architectural endurance. Scholars and locals alike debate the origins of such a story. Was it a literal event or a symbolic caution? The truth remains elusive, as no conclusive archaeological evidence has surfaced to confirm that human remains were intentionally embedded within the castle's walls. Another notable site tied to Hitobashira legends is the infamous Spectre Bridge spanning the Tadami River in Fukushima Prefecture. Local folklore tells of a couple who sacrificed themselves during its construction, believed to appease the angry river spirits and protect future travelers from drownings or calamities. The story persists in the whispered warnings of boatmen and the somber tone of seasonal festivals dedicated to safety at the bridge. Yet, like many Hitobashira narratives, it rests on oral accounts, without documented proof. These stories have endured through centuries, passed down by word of mouth and embedded in the cultural consciousness, serving both as memorials and warnings. Why would communities embrace such gruesome tales? Part of the answer may lie in the deep spiritual beliefs of ancient Japan. The concept of kami, or spirits inhabiting natural and man-made objects, permeated everyday life. Sacrificial acts, whether literal or symbolic, might have been viewed as powerful offerings to these kami, linking human life and sacrifice with protection and prosperity. Bundling a human presence into a building could have been seen as a way to ensure harmony between the physical and spiritual worlds, to guard against misfortune beyond human control. Furthermore, the frightening notion of Hitobashira may reflect societal fears of uncontrollable natural disasters, earthquakes, floods, and fires that plague medieval Japan. In a world without modern science, attributing structural failures or calamities to spiritual imbalance made sense. Rituals of sacrifice, even if apocryphal, provided a psychological anchor for communities grappling with uncertainty. Architecturally, some historians argue that Hitobashira stories might have also been metaphorical expressions, emphasizing the dedication and sacrifices of those involved in construction, figuratively sacrificing comfort, safety, or even life to complete vital public works. Certain temple sites and old roadway bridges are linked to these legends, often featuring small statues or markers said to honor the spirits of the sacrificed. Yet, modern archaeological efforts have produced no definitive evidence that such human sacrifices were standard practice. Debates continue because distinguishing myth from fact is challenging. Many historical documents are ambiguous, and ritual burials or deaths unrelated to construction might have been conflated with sacrificial legends over time. Ultimately, the Hitobashira narrative remains an unresolved story, a complex blend of folklore, spiritual belief, and societal anxieties. The enduring mystery of the Hitobashira legend continues to captivate not only historians and folklorists, but also anyone drawn to the shadowed corners of human belief and fear. At its core, the legend of human pillars, whether rooted in fact, exaggeration, or pure myth, reveals a profound cultural impulse to grapple with the unpredictable forces of nature and the unknown. In a society where survival often hinged on the stability of castles, bridges, and shrines, it is perhaps unsurprising that spiritual solutions would be sought in the form of sacrificial rites, real or imagined. Symbolically, the Hitobashira represent more than just physical protection. They embody the human desire to impose order and meaning on chaos. To bind a person to a structure through legend is to suggest that life itself, its sacrifices and sufferings, can be transformed into strength and endurance. Such stories also highlight the ways communities try to make sense of fear, the fear of destruction, abandonment, and the forces beyond human control. Rather than conceding helplessness, the act of imagining a guardian spirit trapped beneath stone or timber suggests a defiant hope that something sacred, something human, watches over and shields those who remain. These legends resonate because they address universal anxieties. Across cultures, tales of sacrifice and spiritual appeasement flourish where disaster or danger looms large. In this respect, Hitobashira stories form part of a global human tradition, using narrative and ritual to confront uncertainty, to protect what matters most. Whether a tragic true event or a metaphor woven into folklore, the narrative's continued presence in Japanese culture reflects society's ongoing relationship with mortality, sacrifice, and resilience. Modern Japan, with its scientific advances and architectural ingenuity, still carries the imprint of these ancient fears and hopes through such stories. The legends remind us that architecture is never merely functional. It is deeply entwined with cultural values and existential concerns. They provoke reflection on what we are willing to give up to protect our communities and how memory, sometimes fractured, sometimes preserved in myth, shapes our understanding of history and identity. Importantly, while these accounts speak powerfully to human experience, the Hitobashira remain part of folklore, not confirmed history. The tangible proof of human sacrifice linked directly to construction has not been conclusively found despite archaeological efforts. Many scholars interpret these stories as symbolic rather than literal, cautioning against taking oral tradition at face value. They urge us to appreciate the narratives for their cultural and psychological significance rather than as verified fact. In the end, the fascination with Hitobashira speaks to the unresolved nature of these tales, old stories living in the collective imagination, resisting definitive explanation. They are echoes from the past that continue to haunt, provoke, and inspire. As we stand before ancient bridges or castles, we are invited to wonder not only about their builders, but about the deeper mysteries of human courage and vulnerability. The story of Hitobashira, whether truth or legend, remains a compelling lens through which to explore how humans face the unknown and find meaning in sacrifice.